My name is Caroline. I'm the dog groomer out here at the Bed and Biscuit Ranch in Bismarck, North Dakota. Today I just wanted to take a little bit of time to show you how to do a proper brush out on a medium coated breed. This is a double coated breed. This is Dax. He's our dog trainer's hairy guy. He is very tolerant of brushing and combing, and I would just kind of like to do a little bit of work with him and kind of show you guys how to get effective brush outs at home in order to help your D-sheds last a little longer, help make their hair a little bit more manageable at home, and kind of just talk to you a little bit about D-sheds at the end. And so we're going to start with Dax here. Coats like this have the ability to build up quite a lot of undercoat. And so it's really important to make sure that anytime you're using a tool on them, that you do go all the way down to the skin. It might seem like, a little harsh or whatever. A lot of people tend to do a lot of surface brushing or surface combing and not getting all the way down to the skin, and that affects all breeds. If you're not brushing down to the skin, you might as well not be brushing. You gotta commit to it if you're gonna do it, right? So we're gonna start out with a poodle comb. Basically any wide tooth comb will work. What this does is just kind of starts getting their hair moving in the right direction. We want to start loosening up hair, getting everything just a little bit looser and getting ready to get removed. This doesn't do a whole lot just because this is the beginning of the process. Dax hasn't had a D-shed in a while, and so this isn't going to be 100% effective. Brush outs help collect hair. It helps you sort through your dog's hair, but really to get the best results as far as like shedding, you really should do a regular D-shed program. Most dogs do the best on like a 4 to 6 week appointment schedule, because shed cycles are about 12 weeks long, and so if you keep them on a 4 to 6 week schedule, you're going to catch it either a third of the way through or halfway through and be able to stay ahead of that cycle. And so you'll get better results and have a lot less hair in your house if you do it that way. So first comb through with a wide tooth comb and a little bit of hair. This just kind of wakes everything up. It doesn't really do a whole lot. It just kind of gets everything loose and getting started. Normally I would use a velocity dryer, but I'm going to guess you don't have one of those at your home, so I'm not even going to start there. So wide tooth comb first. And then I usually use a rake. There's a lot of different style rakes out there. Some of them have an angle, some of them have double rows. Use what's appropriate for the dog that you're working on. Really, really big, thick, long coats, you're probably going to need more pins or a steeper angle. Try a few out. Usually rakes are between like $10 and $15, so you can usually try a couple for not a whole lot of money. Rakes are a little bit more aggressive than combs. Just because of how you hold them and the amount of pressure you can put on them. Just go at a good pace. Make sure you're monitoring how much you take off. Sometimes, just depending on how dogs lay, how active they are, they might have areas that compact a little bit faster than others. I know a lot of real sedentary dogs tend to get a lot kind of on the side that they lay on. That tends to be the part that compacts the hardest. Dogs that aren't very active, they get a lot of compacted hair on their chest and on their belly. It's different for every dog. There's a lot of similarities, but it's different for every dog. And so it's just really important to make sure you do a good, thorough, all-over job. Brush outs really shouldn't take longer than about 5 minutes or so. Unless you have a real big hairy beast and you have to really do some work on it. I think 5 minutes out of a week is pretty doable for most people. And so I just kind of want to go over that process. So after we're done with a rake, again, a rake is really good for just assessing where there are a lot of compacted areas, but it also just kind of helps wake things up, get everything moving. Next thing we're going to move to is a brush. This brush, sorry, I was already using it on him. This brush has like rubberized pins, so on the top they're just a little bit more protected. You can kind of see they got little balls on the top, right? This is really common. You can find these combs at like Petco or PetSmart. Here, let me clean this one off so I can show you a little better. Right, they're pretty common. Most people have pin combs like this, or pin brushes, sorry, like this. You can find them basically anywhere. The pins just kind of help Two things, they help just protect their skin so you can use it a little bit longer without having to worry about brush burn. You still can't, you know, just sit there and go crazy on a dog with a pin brush. Their skin does eventually get pretty tired of it, and you might end up causing more problems with shedding rather than fixing those problems with shedding. So just make sure that, you know, if you're using a brush, you're using it for a solid amount of time, like 2 or 3 minutes if you're really gonna do it. But make sure you're also checking your dog's skin. If he seems like he's losing tolerance for it, there's a good indication that his skin's probably getting a little bit sore. Always pay attention to areas that like clothing is. I see a lot of dogs that wear sweaters and stuff that get compacted hair on their chest and around their back, especially around their neck. A lot of dogs that wear like big thick collars or prong collars, things like that, they tend to get a lot of compacted hair up in this area. So just make sure you're spending a little extra time focusing on those areas. It's really important, especially with like long hair dogs, to pay attention when they wear clothes. Especially, it seems like sweaters, knit sweaters that are really tight just really tend to be an issue with dogs that have to have some coat removed. Alright, so you can see we're getting a little bit more as we go. We're just kind of grabbing hair as it's coming off. Dax is a really tolerant guy. He would probably stay like this for an hour if I really wanted to brush him for that long. I would just do a D-shed if you need an hour worth of brushing though. That's one of the benefits of, you know, having that those tools and that knowledge and being able to do it the faster way. But for everybody at home who's just got a dog they need to brush, I just want to show you the easiest way to get the best results. Brushing is really nice. It doesn't cause any damage to the coat. This is why we say brush your dog and not furminate your dog. I know a lot of people that use furminators. I personally very, very rarely use it. I think there are only a couple of coats that I think it's actually necessary to use them. Otherwise, I think it just causes a lot of damage to their guard hairs, which in turn causes more problems with compaction of their undercoat. And so I really just don't use those at all. And I would encourage you that if you are using a furminator, that you assess your dog's coat and make sure that it's actually healthy. I see a lot of dogs that have coat damage from owners that only use furminators. Sorry, we got a drop off. So the next brush I'm going to use is this brush. It's a long pin. It's got a little bit of angle on the pin, so it gives it just a little bit more grab. This is a really good comb for using on like featherings or their little butt fluff. I think it's a good tool for that area. It's also really good for chest areas. It definitely doesn't do anything on like short areas like this. I would just skip that altogether. Like I said, make sure you're paying attention to those areas where dogs wear clothes, where they wear their collars and they wear sweaters, things like that. I know I'm one of those people. I have to put a sweater on my pug. She loves them, I promise. She even like gets all excited and puts her feet up for them. So I get it. I'm not going to shame you for dressing your dogs. I do it too. Be really careful about brushing your dog's tail. If they have a lot of compacted hair, you really are better off doing really light brushes and trying to remove what you can, but letting the groomer do it with a velocity dryer or with water in a D-shed. Dogs are very sensitive about their tails. There's not a whole lot of dogs that enjoy having their tails brushed because it tends to be really compacted. And if you think about it, dogs spend a lot of time with their tails underneath them when they're sitting or when they're laying, and so it makes sense that there's a lot of extra hair on those tails. So just be careful when you're brushing them. Dogs can get a little snappy about their tails. They can be sensitive about them. So it's important to work with them, but it's really important to make sure that you're not causing them any undue stress about it. Golden Retrievers and German Shepherds, I notice, seem to be exceptionally sensitive about their hind end, their tails. Just make sure that whatever you're doing with love. You're not just sitting here, you know, raking your dog until they're raw. You want to be real gentle. You just want to be firm. So you can see we're getting more and more. We're filling up those pins. Make sure you're cleaning off your brush as you go. That way you can actually assess how much hair is coming off. If you get to the point where there's not that much hair, that's probably the end of that tool. It's time to move on to something else. Yeah, we're getting to the point where it's not really collecting anything. And so we're probably getting to the point where it's kind of time to be done brushing, and you're probably going to get what you're going to get off them for that point in time. You can see there's still a little bit there. Not as much. Okay, and so the last kind of step, if this dog had already had a D-shed and I was doing a brush out on him, I would go through with a fine-tooth comb. Since he hasn't had a D-shed, this would be really tedious. And so I'm not going to put him through that. I don't think it's worth it. But if you do have a dog that has a fresh D-shed and you're just doing maintenance through it, absolutely feel free to go through with a fine-tooth comb. You're going to get good results. You're going to get hair off. I mean, just don't try to force a fine-tooth comb through a coat that's real compacted. If you need help, you got to ask for help. Talk to your groomers. I am always free for comments and consults. If you have any questions, you're free to reach me out here at the ranch. Our number is 701-415-0494. You can email us. We have access through our website too. We're www.biscuitranch.com. You can reach me on Facebook, my personal Facebook, and through the Bed and Biscuit Ranch page. I respond to all messages there. And then the last thing I want to talk to you about D-shed schedules. D-sheds really do work best on a 4 to 6 week schedule because you are able to kind of head off that shed cycle. It's really important to keep up with them and just realize that, like, if you're on a 4 to 6 week schedule, you're going to get the best grooming that you can get as far as a D-shed. Staying on a longer than like 6 week schedule, you're going to see not nearly as consistent results. And so why the D-shed works so well is because it hydrates your dog's hair and skin. And what that does is it opens up their follicles or cuticles and helps to release hair that is shedded and just sitting on the surface of their skin, and also helps to open up their follicles and release hair that's near to shedding too. There's a lot of misconceptions about D-sheds. A lot of people think that we're thinning out coats, or that I have some magical tool here that just makes hair go away. It really is a process. It's a brush, a comb out, it's a shampoo, double shampoo, and a double conditioning treatment here for D-sheds. Unless they are short coat dogs or they just don't have, they're on a regular schedule, then we can do just a double shampoo and a deep conditioning. I do use 2 different kinds of D-shed products here depending on the coat and what their coat needs are. If it's a coat that's in good health, I generally use our quadruped D-shed. I think that it works the best for helping deal with these like tiny thin hairs next to their skin. I also have a simple shed conditioner, and that one it's just creamier. It's more of like a traditional conditioner like we would use for our hair. But I use that for cases of like really, really severe compaction, or just really long, dry, sad hair. And sometimes I use both. It really depends on what the dog needs. And so, you know, the more often you do it, the less stressful it is for your dog, because it's not as long of a process. If every time you bring your dog, we have to have a 3-hour D-shed, they're going to be kind of stressed out about coming here. But if you bring them on a regular basis, it ends up being a 1-hour process. They're not going to be as crazy about it. They're going to, you know, enjoy coming in here. They're going to enjoy a little bit more, you know, freedom. They're not going to be so stressed out because they are getting used to the tools and the equipment and the routine. And routine is so important to dogs. So just make sure that, like, whatever schedule you choose, you really take your dog's skin, hair needs into consideration, and that you keep up with your brushing at home, because we want to make sure that any services we do, you're going to get the most consistent results with. So it's something to ponder, something to think about. And like I said, if you have any comments, questions, or want to consult, you can reach me at our website. You can reach me here at the front desk. You can reach me on Facebook, either the business or my personal one. I don't care. You guys have a good day. If you need anything, don't be afraid to ask.